Good morning, everybody. Happy Saturday. It's Daryl here in Connecticut. It is 6:30 a.m. I'm running late. It's a rainy day here in Connecticut. Today, I want to talk about approval and disapproval of Trump's performance by issue. I was getting into some heavy data today, some graphs, approval, disapproval, demographics. Just one side subject. One thing I noticed that was interesting is we've had the same amount of registered Democrats and registered Republicans over the last 10 to 20 years. A slightly more amount of registered Democrats than Republicans. The weird thing, the strange thing is the education is flipped. 10 or 20 years ago, the Republicans were more likely to have a post-high school degree, four-year college or more degree. The Republicans were more likely 10 or 20 years ago, and that's completely flipped now. And now it's the Democrats are more likely, or the anti-Trump group are more likely to have a continued education, a four-year degree or more. And the Republican or the pro-Trump people are more likely to have a high school degree or less, or just a high school diploma or less. Then, like I said, the strange thing is, though, the numbers, the registered amount of voters stayed the same, but the people have changed and the ages have changed. Supporting Trump is more of an older group. You guys know this: the baby boomers, white, male, high school education. That's your Trump voter now, which made me wonder. I'm an aberration. I was trying to figure that one out. We'll save that for another video. Anyway, so I'm getting into the issue by issue, and this is where I found a division in the country. Such a huge division in the country. How can all of us, as you know, how can me and my neighbors, me and everybody, see each issue and the way Trump handles it so differently? It's like the polls and the data show like we don't agree on anything. Everything that I thought was bad for the country, the pro-Trump people thought was good for the country. Let's talk about the tax reform. In general, you know, the anti-Trump people, of course, thought it was a terrible thing for the country. Bombing of Syria. This is going all the way back. The meeting with Putin. The summit with Putin. You know, this is interesting. Now, the pro-Trump people thought that was great, that he met with Putin. The rest of us, not so much. And even more than that, though, when he met with Kim Jong-il, there was a vast difference. The people that vote for Trump thought that was a great thing. The rest of us definitely, like when he went to shake handshake a North Korean general, the rest of the country was horrified by this. And so I'm asking myself, and I'm looking at the data and the graphs of the approval and disapproval by subject, by voter registration, and I'm asking myself, it's amazing that we can't agree on one single thing as good for the country or bad for the country. And, there's such a stark difference in the way we see what's going on over the last 3 years. I know I'm not telling you anything new. This is what I came up with. I started asking myself, can both sides be right? Can something be simultaneously be great for the country and terrible for the country? I mean, of course, there's pros and cons to things. So I started looking at it another way. How are we judging? How is each side judging these things by their approval or disapproval? In other words, I think I hate dividing us up like this, but it is what it is. The anti-Trump, the Democrat, the liberal, the independents, the others, I think we're looking at the good of the nation and even more than that, the future of the nation over the next 10, 20 years, like with the environment, with the deficit, where our children will be, with pollution. I definitely see us judging his actions by those criteria. That is our gauge as to whether this we approve or disapprove or strongly disapprove is what will this do down the line, or climate change. That's a huge one. And I started to look at the pro-Trump people and what are they judging this by? What are they judging these issues by? How can they give Trump such a high approval of him meeting with Kim Jong-il, or such a high approval of the tax overhaul, or over his stance on climate change? How can they give such a high approval to this? How can we see things so differently? And this is what I came up with. We're the two different sides. We're judging it by two different standards. Like I said, we the anti-side, we're looking at the future and the good of the country. Take the impeachment. Down the line, it will set a precedent, and I think that's a huge thing. It's to me. My favorite term is it's going to erode the foundation of our elections down the line. It's going to involve. It's going to foul things up. It will corrupt the system. When you start bringing in outside countries, we cannot allow a precedent on that. That's and that's what the pro impeachment side sees, and the pro Trump side just sees it right now as it's bad for Trump. And see, that's how I think they are gauging this. The pro-Trump people, they're not. I don't think they're considering the overall good of our nation, of our election system, the future of the nation, the future of our election system down 12 years from now, 8 years from now, 16 years from now, presidential elections, and how these things will affect that, how climate change, how these regulations will affect things in 10 years. I do not think the pro-Trump people are taking this into consideration whatsoever. I think they are judging these issues by what is good for Trump, the man, his image, his ego, his continuing presidency. I think that is what they're judging these issues, all these issues that we're voting on as a country, or we're talking about as a country. They're judging their approval on how it benefits Trump, if it's good for him. And another part of this, I truly believe, and it's almost embarrassing to consider that a good percentage of the country is thinking like this, but I think a lot of pro-Trump people are gauging their approval and disapproval just out of spite. Seriously, owning the libs. I really think a lot of this data, a lot of these graphs, that was the background answer, I think, to a lot of this. When there's an issue, and Trump takes a stance, takes action on an issue, and say us, the anti-Trump, the Democrat liberal side, we don't like it. It's going to be bad for our future. Climate change, and then out of spite, owning the libs, they approve of it. And I think that's almost what it comes down to. It's not even taking into consideration that the good of the country, the good of the world, the heating of the globe. I don't even think that's not on their radar. I think it's all about Trump being right and his continuing presidency. I think it's a lot of short-term views. Like if it's going to benefit them an extra $100 less out of their taxes, fantastic, vote for it. But not taking into consideration how their children will have to pay $1,000 or $10,000 on that $100 they got extra today. I think it's short-sightedness. I mean, and then part of me, I don't even like to be so critical of other people, but or just so negative. But that's what when you see these numbers, there's got to be a reason why both sides can't be right all the time. There's got to be a reason why we're so polar opposite on these issues of our approval and disapproval of Trump's handling of them. It's amazing that we can't agree on one single subject, that we agree that Trump either handled it good or bad. We can't all agree on that. There's got to be an underlying reason for that, and I think this is part of it, that the two sides are judging, And a lot of it's out of spite. I believe that's what it is. Spiteful and short-sightedness, and I'll even say this: greed and envy too. I've said that before, and like I said, part of me, I don't like to be judgmental and negative like that. But that's when I look at these numbers and these graphs, and I see the hard data on this. And there's got to be a reason. How people so alike each other, neighbors, can be so different. So consider their approval or disapproval, the benefit or not of each issue. How can we see things so differently? And I think that's what it is. I think it's short-sightedness and greed. A lot of it, like I said, an extra few bucks or a little more pollution today. Screw it. We don't need this regulation. It never killed anybody. A little lead in our drinking water never killed anybody. Yeah, that's what I think it is. And spitefulness, owning the libs, unfortunately. That's my thoughts for today. Let me know what you guys think. Have a good Saturday.